Let's be honest for a second. Most of us have watched a Tom Cruise movie at the same point and thought, yeah, I could totally do that. Whether he's hanging off an airplane, infiltrating a heavily guarded facility, escaping an impossible situation, or somehow surviving things that would instantly kill the rest of us. Tom Cruise has spent decades making action look cool. And while most of us probably aren't going to become international spies anytime soon, video games give us the next best thing. Over the years, developers have created incredible experiences that let us sneak into enemy bases, survive impossible odds, uncover dangerous conspiracies, and pull off the kind of stunts that belong in blockbuster movies. Some makes us feel like elites, secret agents. Some makes us feel like treasure hunters and adventurers. And some simply makes us feel the coolest person in the room. Hello and welcome to Nerdy Boys. Today we are counting down the 10 games that make you feel like Tom Cruise. Let's get it started. Starting things off at number 10, we have a game that takes a very different approach to action. And while it might not be the first game that comes to mind when you think of Tom Cruise, hear me out, because this one absolutely earns its place. Alan Wake 2 feels less like a traditional horror game and more like a prestige psychological thriller. The kind of movie where you're constantly questioning what's real, what's fiction, and whether the protagonist is slowly losing his mind. You split your time between Alan Wake himself, trapped in the surreal nightmare of the dark place, and FBI agent Saga Anderson, who arrives in Bright Falls to investigate a series of brutal murders. What makes the game so special is how it blends detective work, mystery, and horror into one incredibly cinematic package. You're not just fighting monsters, you're collecting clues, building theories, and trying to understand the mystery that gets stronger with every chapter. The presentation is also on another level. Live action sequences blend seamlessly with gameplay, environments constantly shift around you, and the entire experience feels like a high-budget thriller produced by people who genuinely love storytelling. It might not have the explosions of Mission Impossible, but if you ever wanted to feel like the lead character in a dark Hollywood mystery, Alan Wake 2 absolutely delivers. Next, at number 9, we have Tomb Raider. Before Lara Croft became the legendary adventurer we all know now, she was just trying to survive. And that's exactly what makes the 2013 reboot such an incredible action-adventure experience. This version of Lara isn't the unstoppable hero from later games. She's inexperienced, vulnerable, and completely overwhelmed by the nightmare she's been thrown into. Watching her evolve throughout the story is one of the game's greatest strengths. Shipwrecked on a mysterious island, Lara quickly finds herself hunted by dangerous enemies while uncovering the secrets of an ancient civilization. What follows is a relentless series of escapes, firefights, collapses, and near-death experiences that really give you a chance to breathe. The reason it fits this list so perfectly is because the game constantly puts Lara into situations that seem impossible to survive. Bridges collapse beneath her feet, buildings explode around her, entire mountainsides come crashing down, and somehow she keeps pushing forward. It's exactly the kind of larger-than-life adventure that makes action movies so entertaining, and it's one of the best modern reboots gaming has ever seen. At number 8, we have Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs is one of those rare games that somehow never got the attention it deserved, and that's a shame because it's still one of the most enjoyable action-adventure experiences of the last decade. You play as Wei Shen, an undercover police officer infiltrating Hong Kong criminal underworld. On paper, that sounds simple enough, but the brilliance of Sleeping Dogs comes from the tension between Wei's two lives. The deeper he goes undercover, the harder it becomes to separate his duty as a cop from his loyalty to the people around him. But let's be honest, most people remember Sleeping Dogs for the action. The hand-to-hand combat is fantastic, heavily inspired by classic martial arts film. Fights are fast, brutal, and incredibly satisfying. Then you add in car chases, shootouts, and dramatic story moments, and suddenly it feels like you're starring in your own Hong Kong action blockbuster. It's stylish, underrated, and packed with personality. If you've never played it, you're missing one of the gaming's hidden gems. Next, at number 7, we have 007 First Light. If there is one character who can compete with Ethan Hunt in the world of espionage, it's James Bond. And that's exactly why 007 First Light earns a spot on this list. Developed by the team behind Hitman, First Light explores Bond's early years and gives players the opportunity to step into the shoes of the world's most famous secret agent. And honestly, who hasn't wanted to be James Bond at least once? The appeal of Bond has always been about more than gadgets and fancy suits. It's about confidence, it's about walking into impossible situations with a plan, adapting when everything goes wrong, and somehow finding a way to succeed. Whether you're infiltrating secure locations, gathering intelligence, or escaping dangerous situations, First Light captures the fantasy of being a highly skilled spy operating on a global stage. And while Bond and Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt may have different styles, both characters embody the same thing, making the impossible look effortless. At number 6, we have Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Indiana Jones helped define action-adventure storytelling long before most of the games on this list even existed. So seeing him finally get a modern video game adaptation feels like a perfect fit. The Great Circle captures everything people love about indie. Ancient mysteries, dangerous calls, hidden tombs, discoveries, elaborate puzzles, and of course plenty of moments where things go horribly wrong. Unlike many modern action games, the Great Circle isn't purely about combat. Explorations and discovery are just as important. You're constantly uncovering clues, solving puzzles, and piecing together secrets that span continents. But when the action starts, it absolutely delivers. Escaping collapsing ruins, outrunning danger, and improvising your way through chaotic situations feels exactly like stepping into one of the classic films. Pure characters represent adventure quite like Indiana Jones, and this game reminds us exactly why he's remained an icon for generations. Next, at number 5, we have Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. At this point, Nathan Drake might actually be the closest thing gaming has to Tom Cruise. Because Uncharted 4 isn't really about treasure hunting, it's about constantly finding yourself in situations that should be completely impossible to survive, and somehow making out anyway. Throughout the game, you're chasing long-lost pirate legends across jungles, ancient ruins, forgotten islands, and crumbling cities. What makes the Uncharted 4 so special isn't the destination, it's everything that happens along the way. One minute you're quietly exploring a forgotten tomb, the next you're hanging from the side of a collapsing clock tower, then suddenly you're in the middle of a massive chase throughout the Madagascar, jumping between vehicles as buildings explode around you. The incredible thing is that none of it feels forced. The game blends storytelling and gameplay so seamlessly that you never watching Nathan Drake be the hero. You feel like you're the one surviving this ridiculous situation. And that's really why Uncharted 4 deserves a place on this list. Few games understand cinematic action the way Naughty Dog does. Every chapter feels like the climax of a blockbuster movie, and yet somehow the game keeps finding ways to raise the stakes. It's thrilling, it's spectacular, and one of the greatest action-adventure experiences ever made. Next, at number 4, we have Cyberpunk 2077, the Phantom Liberty DLC. Cyberpunk 2077 was already an ambitious RPG, but Phantom Liberty transformed it into something completely different, one of the best spy thrillers gaming has ever seen. Set in the dangerous district of Dogtown, the expansion throws you into a web of political conspiracies, intelligence agencies, betrayals, and secret operations. Every conversation feels important because you never know who's telling the truth. What makes Phantom Liberty stand out is its atmosphere. This isn't a story about saving the world. It's a story about surviving in a world where everyone has their own agenda and nobody can truly be trusted. The mission constantly places you in tense situations where information becomes your most valuable weapon. Sometimes you rely on stealth, sometimes technology, sometimes pure instinct. It feels like a futuristic blend of Mission Impossible, James Bond, and Blade Runner, all wrapped together inside one of the most visually impressive worlds gaming has ever seen. At number 3, we have Hitman: World of Assassination. There are action games where you're powerful, and then there's Hitman, where you're dangerous. At first glance, Agent 47 doesn't seem like a traditional action hero. He's calm, quiet, and rarely raises his voice. But that's exactly what makes him so fascinating. Every mission drops you into a massive sandbox filled with opportunities, secrets, and possibilities. You're not simply following objectives. You're studying routines, gathering information, and planning the perfect operation. One of the greatest strengths of Hitman is how much freedom it gives the player. You can approach the same target in dozens of different ways. Disguises, accidents, poison, infiltration, manipulation, and so on. The game constantly rewards creativity. And when a complicated plan finally comes together exactly the way you imagine, few games provide a greater sense of satisfaction. It genuinely feels like you've pulled off the impossible. Now at number 2, we have Max Payne 3. If Uncharted feels like a blockbuster adventure movie, Max Payne 3 feels like the explosive finale of an action movie that refuses to end. Rockstar took everything that made the original games memorable and turned it up to 11. Every shoodown feels cinematic, every dive through the air looks incredible, every bullet time sequence transports an ordinary gunfight into something unforgettable. What makes Max Payne stand out isn't just the action, it's Max himself. He's older, broken, exhausted, and carrying years of emotional baggage. Yet despite everything, he keeps moving forward. That combination of vulnerability and determination gives the game a surprising amount of emotional weight. Beneath all the explosions and gunfire is a story about a man desperately trying to find purpose again. And when the action finally erupts, few games deliver that level of intensity. It's loud, stylish, chaotic, and still one of the greatest third-person shooters ever made. Taking the number 1 spot is Metal Gear Solid 5, and honestly, if this is a video about games that make you feel like you're starring in a Tom Cruise movie, then this game was almost impossible to ignore. Metal Gear Solid 5 places you in the role of Big Boss, a legendary soldier operating deep behind enemy line. But unlike most action games, it doesn't tell you exactly how to approach a mission. Instead, it gives you the objective and simply says, figure it out. Need to rescue a prisoner from a heavily guarded military base? You can sneak in during the night, carefully avoiding patrols and security cameras, or you can call in air support, create a distraction, and improvise your way through the chaos. That's where the magic of Metal Gear Solid 5 comes from. Every successful mission feels like your own plan. You're not just following a script, you're creating one. And that's exactly why it captures the spirit of a Mission Impossible movie so well. You're constantly gathering intelligence, infiltrating enemy facilities, adapting when things go wrong, and somehow escaping situations that should have ended in disaster. There are very few games that make players feel genuinely clever. Metal Gear Solid 5 does it constantly. Every base becomes a puzzle, every mission becomes a story, and every successful extraction feels like you've just pulled off the impossible. Years after its release, it remains one of the most impressive sandbox action games ever made, and one of the purest power fantasies gaming has ever produced. Whether you're infiltrating military bases in Metal Gear Solid 5, pulling off the perfect assassination in Hitman, uncovering conspiracies in Phantom Liberty, or somehow surviving another complete ridiculous disaster in Uncharted 4, every game on this list captures a different side of what makes action movies so much fun. Some focus on stealth, some focus on adventure, some focus on explosive spectacle. But all of them share one thing in common. They make you feel like the hero of your own blockbuster movie. And honestly, that's one of the reasons we love video games so much in the first place. They allow us to experience things we'd never be able to do in real life. At least hopefully anyway. Let me know down in the comments which game makes you feel the most like an action hero, and if there is a game you think should have made the list. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and lets us keep making more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you with the next adventure.